What would you do if I told you you could lose fat, be stronger and improve your overall health just by making one change? That's right, I'm talking about intermittent fasting. So what is intermittent fasting? It's basically where you change the way you eat in the sense of the timings of your meals, when you cycle through periods of fasting and eating. So you're not necessarily changing the food that you're eating, you're just changing the times you're eating that food. For example, the most common one is a 16-8 fast, which basically means you will fast for 16 hours and your eating window will be 8 hours. So for 16 hours of a day you eat nothing, and in an 8-hour period is where you consume all of your food. Before I carry on, I just want to say fasting does not mean starvation. You are still eating the correct amount of calories that you need, you're just eating them in a smaller time frame. So you're not necessarily having breakfast, lunch and dinner, you're just eating your meals in that window and you're consuming the same amount of food, so you're not starving yourselves by any means. You're still getting all the food that you normally would do. Now before I get into the benefits of it and how to do it and all of that, I just want to take it back a little bit and get a little bit scientific. We have something called blood sugar. The blood sugar levels in our body vary throughout the day, when we eat, when we don't eat, that sort of thing, and they're regulated by two hormones. These hormones are known as insulin and glucagon. Now I'm sure you've all heard of insulin spikes and you don't know whether they're good or bad, and there's so much information about them. I'm going to try and break it down and simplify it for you. So what is an insulin spike? When you eat food, your body starts to break it down and it all filters through your digestive system and into your blood. Now once it goes into your bloodstream, that's when the hormones start coming into effect, and that's where your insulin spikes. So what insulin does is, when you have too much sugar in your blood, so when your blood sugar levels rise and they're too high, your body then releases insulin, and what that does is it kind of opens up the gateway. So it allows your body to absorb that sugar from your blood into your cells. It's basically stored in your cells as glycogen. Now this glycogen is kept in your cells and it's stored there for when your body needs to use it at a later time. So for example, when you don't have food, your body then needs to use the glycogen, the stored energy that it's got. The problem is your body only has a limited amount of storage space for glycogen. So once it's kind of taken as much sugar as it can from the blood and then it's stored it in the cells as glycogen, if there's even more to kind of take and it doesn't have space for it, that's when it will start storing it as fat. Now it mainly stores it as fat in the liver, but again in there's only a limited amount of space, so once that's full up it will start storing it everywhere else around your body, and that's where people's body fat tends to kind of go up. So that's basically the job of insulin. Now the opposite hormone to insulin is glucagon. So where insulin takes the excess sugar from your blood and puts it into your cells, glucagon does the opposite. So when your blood sugar levels are too low and your body needs a bit more sugar in the blood, it will take the stored glycogen from the cells and transfer it into the bloodstream, thus increasing the blood sugar levels. So once your body's kind of used all the glycogen that's been stored, the glucagon has taken it out of the cells, put it into the bloodstream, you've then used that for energy, now you've got nothing else left, your body's going to start tapping into fat, which is where intermittent fasting can kind of help with fat loss. But I'll get into that in a bit. But that's basically how it all works. So you have these two hormones and they're kind of trying to control your body and keep it as stable as possible, keep your blood sugar levels stable. Now this is where we start playing around with that. So with intermittent fasting, what we're doing is we're keeping our insulin levels really low. We then spike that level when we have our first meal of the day, and that kind of just allows for all the nutrients to be absorbed, because like I said, it opens up the gateway between cell transfer, so transferring nutrients in and out of your cells. So once we spike that insulin, we can kind of absorb all the nutrients, but then we keep that insulin down for the rest of the period while we're fasting to help our body kind of use the stored energy and the fat, the excess basically. So you've got to think, if you're constantly eating throughout the day, so for example, if you're having 5 or 6 meals throughout the day, you're constantly spiking your insulin levels. When your insulin levels are constantly being kept high, your body is then storing everything. So it's taking all of that excess sugar from the blood and just constantly putting your body into storage mode. We want our body to be in a burning mode. Now this all originates from back when we were even cavemen. You have to remember, food wasn't always readily available back then. Ages ago, our ancestors, they used to have to hunt and find their food, and they would only eat when they found it. So they might have a bit of food and they might not find another piece for a good amount of time, another 8-10 hours. It doesn't mean they could pop down to the supermarket and get something. No, they didn't have a fridge where they kept all their food in. It was literally that they could only eat when food was available. We've been spoiled in the sense that we can just get food whenever, and it's not always the best for our health. So this is where intermittent fasting kind of not just helps with fat loss, but it also helps a lot with your health. So let me get into all of the benefits of it now. Number one, which we've already covered, is fat loss. I'm not going to go into it again, but intermittent fasting does really help you lose fat and stay lean. I do it myself, and the results I get are amazing. Number two, it improves your focus and concentration. Now, when your body has limited food, when it is in a fasted state, it kind of needs to be sharper. It kind of goes into a defense mode, a survival mode, and that kind of sharpens all of your senses and makes you focus and makes your brain work a lot differently, and you will see your concentration and focus will improve so much more. Number three, which I've already kind of covered, is how it helps lower your blood sugar levels. And that can actually help people with diabetes, and it's actually been found that intermittent fasting can in cases help reverse type 2 diabetes. Number four, you'll feel so much more energetic and you won't have these crashes. When you kind of eat sugary foods throughout the day or high carby foods, and you're eating regularly and all the time, as and when, you kind of, because your insulin is kind of going up and down, you do eventually crash. With intermittent fasting, your energy levels tend to stay more stable and you have a constant steady flow of energy throughout the day. You can also build more muscle mass. We have something called human growth hormone, which is the hormone which is responsible for us kind of growing our muscles and getting stronger, and it's been found that intermittent fasting actually helps our body release more of that hormone. So again, it will just help you make those gains when you go to the gym, so you can basically burn fat and have lean muscle mass at the same time. Intermittent fasting also helps to lower cholesterol levels, so if you do have any of those kinds of health issues, it is really good for you guys too. The health benefits, like I said, have been amazing. If you're like me and you train quite regularly or you have a very active job, you do get a lot of inflammation in the body. With intermittent fasting, it kind of helps reduce that inflammation, and one of the ways it kind of does it is by helping your cells cleanse, which brings me on to my next benefit, which is autophagy. Autophagy is basically where your cells renew themselves. So like we know, our cells are constantly dying and our bodies are producing new ones. They say every 7 years you basically have a brand new body because all your old cells have died and they've been replaced by new ones. Now, autophagy is just that process where a weaker or an older cell kind of dies and your body then produces a newer, stronger one. Now, with intermittent fasting, what's been found is when you're in that fasted state, your cells kind of eat themselves. So you've got, let's say you've got all your cells in your body, some of them are strong, some of them are weak, some of them are young, some of them are old. The older, weaker ones will be fed upon by the stronger, younger ones. So where your body's fasted, your cells think, right, we need to stay alive, what shall we do? We'll eat these cells, basically, in a sense. This is the most basic way I'm trying to break it down for you. So they'll end up eating those cells in a way, and then your body has to produce new ones. So now you're left with all of these strong cells, all the weak ones have died out, and your body's replacing those weaker with strong ones. So now you've got strong ones here, your whole body is just in much better shape from a cellular level. So that's basically what intermittent fasting is. It's literally just having a period of fasting with a period of eating. There's loads of different ways you can do it. For beginners, I recommend starting out with a 16-8 fast, like I said earlier, so where you're fasting for 16 hours and eating for 8. You can then drop your window down and you can shorten your window. So at the moment, for example, myself, I fast for at least 18 hours and my eating window is about 6, but sometimes it changes. Sometimes I do 16-8, sometimes I do 24, I've done 22 and 2, I mean, it just depends on the way it is. And I like to play around with it a little bit as well. I've done a few 24-hour fasts which are slightly different. You've also got extended fasting, you've got dry fasting, there's loads of ways of doing it. But I'm going to make a separate video about all of that. With intermittent fasting, I'd say, right, so start with a 16-8 fast, so 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating, and then see how that helps you, see how you feel, see how your body changes, and then you can kind of play around with the hours there. Now, I know you're probably thinking, how can I not eat for 16 plus hours? How can I fast for that long? I'll be starving, blah, blah, blah. But you do get used to it. I mean, at the start it is a bit tricky for the first few days to a week, and then your body kind of gets used to it. Remember, your body is the king of adapting. And you also want to remember that, let's say you are doing a 16-8 fast. Out of those 16 hours, a good portion of them you're going to be sleeping, so you're not even going to feel hungry while you sleep. So it's only really the morning period. So as an example, I'll tell you what I used to do. So when I started with a 16-8 fast, let's say I would wake up in the morning at 6 o'clock. I wouldn't eat my first meal till maybe 11 AM, let's say, and then I wouldn't eat any later than 7 PM. So my eating window was between 11 AM and 7 PM. Now from 7 PM till about 10 PM or whenever I go sleep, that's the only time I'm really awake fasting. The rest of the time I'm sleeping, and then I just repeat that process, and it's not as hard as you think. So that's basically it, guys. There's so much more detail I can go into it, but this is literally just a kind of beginner's type video. If it's not something you've ever done or something you've kind of heard about and not been sure about doing, honestly try it out. I highly recommend it. The benefits of it are amazing. I mean, just the results I've seen myself, I find I can even eat more and kind of keep the fat off me. I've been eating so much now and I'm still just constantly burning fat, and I'm staying very lean. Even if I'm a bit naughty with my food as well, I'm finding that the fat is just kind of staying off me. So I do definitely recommend it for fat loss, and like I said, the health benefits of it are amazing. So it's definitely worth trying out. I hope you found the video informative. If you are going to try it out, please comment below and let me know how you got on with it, what you liked, what you didn't, how you felt, everything. I'd love to know. If you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, it would mean a lot to me, and go and follow me on Instagram. It's at DNAFitnessUK. I post on there regularly, so it's a good way to kind of keep up to date with me. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll be back soon with another video for you.